Hey there, Roll for Crit here, and we're here to whet your appetite with a preview of Crumbs from Tidbit Games.
In this game, you're all a bunch of different kinds of critters, and you're trying to get the most crumbs at the park because you're hungry. So each player is going to take on a different animal: pigeons, squirrels, chipmunks, and ducks. And you're going to have this little board right here, as you can see, surrounded by a 3D fence. And you're going to be trying to get the most breadcrumbs by taking control of different areas of the board. So at the start of the game, you're actually going to take everybody's pieces, just 2 from each player, maybe depending on different roles that come into play, and drop them randomly onto the board. And that's how a lot of things are going to happen. It's essentially a dexterity game where you're dropping things onto the board, you see where they land, and then later on your turn, you're going to be able to use crumbs to move around to different places and try to gain advantages.
Yeah, so each turn, the first player, or if it's your turn, you're going to flip over a daily buzz card, which is a little news thing, and it will pretty much affect the round with a rule. Maybe changing breadcrumbs, forcing different spots, changing these feeders, which pretty much change the point value of that area. Some of them are solid, those are variable. And then you will be able to spend your breadcrumbs, your victory points, on different actions. Everyone has the same of movement, which is simply just moving up to 3 to a different area. There is spawning a new character in an area where you already belong. There is also dropping the dog. Which,
dropping the dog.
Like that. And wherever his head lands, all the minis, wherever their head lands, so Hugh's actually more over there, that point won't score that round. But other people could pay to re-drop him and move him around and such. Finally, everyone has their own special abilities. You alluded to it earlier. These squirrels are more for attack, with the chipmunks for defense. As of now, this is a preview. Ducks really control the pond areas, and pigeons are all about like spawning everywhere because they're pigeons. They're everywhere. Once everyone had their turn, we get to deal with the breadcrumbs.
Oh man, these breadcrumbs, man. Yeah, so you will pick up all the breadcrumbs and drop them right into the middle. You just keep your hands about a foot above the board, and you just go, whoosh. And look at that, none of them fell out, which is unusual for me.
You discuss if there's any on the edge, but afterwards you take a look, and no one can share territories. You actually fight if anything gets pushed or dropped. Very simple, you just roll a die. And you take the value plus the number of meeples or critters in there, and highest number wins, kicking the other one to the fountain. And you count the number of breadcrumbs in there, multiply by the value of the space. Now, sometimes if it's in the center, it's not worth any points. That's like the neutral area. If it falls in water, only the ducks can score it, because otherwise it gets soggy if you can't reach it in time.
Only the ducks are into that.
So you increase your points by the value, and every time you go over pretty much the end of the board, 10, 20, 30, 40, you move up on this little upgrade chart, in which you will have an upgraded ability you can only get once you've hit 30 points. You don't go backwards if you go spend points. But once someone's hit 50, that's the game. You finish everything up and see who ended up with the most delicious crumbs.
So this is definitely a goofy game. It's got a very fun theme and very appealing to look at. It's one of those games where you put it on the table and it just looks like a toy, It's just fun to look at and play around with. Very goofy sensibility to this game. There's strategy in terms of how do you spend your crumbs and where should you move things? When is the best time to try to attack someone or certain abilities? For instance, the squirrels actually can share spaces with people if they choose to, so that may be something that you want to take into account. But there's definitely plenty of chaos in the mix.
It's got that might disappoint some people with the randomness because the dropping, and also the die rolls are very simple combat, risk style, but there is some fun ways you can mitigate it. As we were playing, I realized, okay, so since Jonathan's here controlling this area, because you can move on your turn, you can place them anywhere on the board. I'm gonna sort of line them up here to make it harder for the little crumbs that come your way.
Right. Yeah, you can actually choose how you place them. So yeah, you can try to be like, oh man, maybe the crumbs will bounce off of me and fall into my zone.
Do some advanced geometry there.
Yeah, so that is a very interesting aspect of it that almost seems contradictory to the spirit of the game, but you can do it, and that could be fun.
I think that's the idea. It's sort of the perfect balance of like still light strategy, but in the end it still has some random funness. Funness, I don't think is a word.
It's fine. We'll allow it.
By the way, this board is double-sided. There's a harder one on the other side, and another board here in the preview copy. Apparently, one side is supposed to be
Central Park.
Thank you. And one is supposed to be a park in Boston, I believe you said. So who knows? Maybe more stretch goals are different parks.
Yeah, so that's always cool. So you can change up the layouts because you can see like some areas are bigger than others or smaller, so you may
Also,
be more advantageous to
the
you.
ponds, because the ducks they pretty much revolve all around where pond locations are, so that could be another thing.
Yeah, so I think this is a game that if you like dexterity games and simple games, and I definitely think this is one that younger kids would love. The theme is really super appealing for that kind of crowd.
Well, I actually think this is seems like a great step forward from a really simple dexterity game, because usually it's just like, oh, look, I'm holding through bouncing. This is the next step where you're sure it's still randomness of dropping the crumbs and whatnot, but there is that planning ahead of like, all right, I have 20 crumbs to spend this round. I might, if I'm ahead, I have the chance to take a lot of territory or not. So maybe I should, and that way I can sort of wall off to try to stop you or something.
Yeah.
It has that next step, I think, that's perfect of combining the two.
Plays from 2 to 4 players. Definitely, you're probably going to get more enjoyment out of it with more players at the max levels. There's just more going on, more people fighting over things. But that is the game. It is called Crumbs, and you can see for yourself. It's kind of neat.
It is on Kickstarter now. If you're watching this video around the time this video is published, if you're watching 2 years from now, probably not us.
Probably not. Maybe you can find it somewhere else. Let us know in the comments if you are going to back Crumbs, if you've had a chance to try out a demo at a convention or something, you have thoughts about it, or other suggestions for videos you want us to do in the future. Otherwise, who are we?
I believe we're Roll for Crit, and personally, I'm Will.
Personally, I'm Jonathan, and thanks for watching this Kickstarter preview.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more board game content. Every little bit helps.
Please, we gotta eat.